Hi, and welcome to Matt Holman Talks Mental Health, the podcast where I have the opportunity to catch up and chat with people who I've met throughout my life and my career. Today, I have the great pleasure in introducing the amazing human that is Tracy Jarvis to this conversation. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi, Matt. Thank you very much for the warm welcome.
You're more than welcome. So Tracy and I met back in 2017. She came in to deliver a presentation about her work and her community work to a client of mine, Happy For at the time. And she was great. She just inspired us into action so that we wanted to do more to help in terms of volunteering and supporting the community. So it's been a great journey for that organisation to help support the work that Tracy does. I've stayed very close to that conversation too. I'm still very good friends with everybody within that community. And I think it's just a lovely chance for us to sit down and have a chat about things that you're doing, Tracy. So would you like to introduce yourself, please, for everybody?
Yeah, sure, Matt. So yes, as you said, I'm Tracy Jarvis, and I'm the founder of the Community Matters Partnership Project. We call it CMPP. And I founded the organisation 10 years ago now, actually, 2010, it set up and started. And the reason it all came about, I suppose, was because I was about to get made redundant. And I'd always worked in organisations that were helping the community in some form or manner. And back in 2010, it was all about David Cameron's Hug a Hoodie, Big Society. It was about collaborating and working together for social impact to benefit as a collective. And I remember the morning quite clearly. I was in the shower thinking, oh, I'm going to get made redundant. I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got children to look after. I need to get a job or I need to do something. And I kind of had this niggling idea in the back of my head for quite some time about CMPP, although it wasn't quite there yet. I was in the shower shaving my legs, as us women do. Not a nice view, I'm sure, but and I thought, oh my God, I think I know what I want to do. I want to try and help companies to connect with their communities, because throughout my career, really, I'd seen there was a great deal of passion from local companies to want to get involved and help their local community, but they didn't always know how to do that, where to go, or perhaps have the time to be able to make the impact that they wanted to make. And likewise, charities were calling out for the help of businesses, corporate expertise, volunteers, time, ways that they could support their causes within their community. So CMP really set up initially to do that. It's set to be the sort of organisation in the middle to help both parties to have a really beneficial relationship with one another. Now, you might think, okay, well, that sounds great, but how on earth do you get that going from scratch? Where do you start? So I was quite fortunate that in my career, I'd worked with some big businesses, some big sort of corporate businesses, Tag Farnborough Airport, BMW, Fleur, and I had some great relationships with the senior management there. So I went to each of them and said, look, I've got this idea about how I can help your business to be a better citizen, to do better works within its community. And I haven't got a job soon. So I'm thinking maybe you could pay me and we could work together and we could come up with a really good scheme. So at this point, the company said to me, okay, I quite like your idea, need a bit more thought behind it. And you need to go out and get others involved, because we want this to be a collaborative business community working together to benefit their community. So, okay, that was fair points. Off we went. So we started off the CMPP with 4 companies. And in that presentation to them, they sort of talked about money. Okay, so how much is it going to cost me to make this all happen? So at that time, I was on my own. I was in a bedroom in a pair of slippers. So I didn't have huge overheads, huge costs, but there needed to be some money to build a website, to pay me a salary, and all the on-costs that are involved with an organisation. So I said to them, £10,000 each. There's 4 of you. That's £40,000 in year one. That will pay for the whole thing to set up, and that will give me a salary. They said, okay, we'll give you £5,000 each. So you've got £20,000 of investment. You'll need to go and get another 4 companies to be involved. And that's really how CMPP came about and set up and became a sustainable, self-funded charity. 10 years down the line, we now got 65 businesses, all active within CMP, different sizes, all paying different amounts to be a member of that organisation. Corporates pay the most, small businesses pay the least, but together, wow, we change in local communities.
What an amazing, from that shower moment to where you're at now 10 years later with this wonderful business and, you know, social enterprise that's really supporting the community. And that's it, isn't it? It's about supporting local community through the work you do in your area. Of course, it's not national. It's very much focused on a specific area of the country as well at the moment, right?
Yep. So we're in Surrey Heath, we're in Woking, and we're in Rushmore, because we've got enough companies in those areas to fund the projects to be operational. We'd love to go national, of course, because I think if there was a CMPP in every local community, loads more companies would be able to support and help out, because we do all the legwork for them. We set everything up, and make sure it's, you know, safe, and fun and fulfilling, so that people can just turn up and do the good deed, really make it all happen.
Amazing. And that's an invitation to anybody that's listening to this podcast to make sure that, you know, your company's doing something around this. And we'll talk a little bit more around the nuts and bolts of the business and how you actually help those companies to connect to the charities in a bit. But the big question of these conversations is about your journey, because you're obviously an inspirational person when it comes to creating something that's now giving so many people benefit. But you've got a story as well, right? So I'd love to hear more about your journey, your life. So let's hear about your journey with mental health.
Yeah, of course, Matt. So I grew up in Aldershot, in one of the most deprived communities in the whole country, a place called Northtown. I'm the oldest of 3 children. My mum didn't work, but my dad was a plumber, or heating engineer, as he likes to refer to himself. And I think what I do now is completely and utterly derived from my childhood, where living in a community, a very poor community, we had to help each other to survive, but not even just to survive, to actually to thrive and be good citizens. So, you know, where we lived, if somebody ran out of milk and couldn't afford milk, the neighbour would drop round with some milk, you know. You'd run down the shop and you'd get each other money on your electric meter card.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it was a very much supportive community, collaborative community. And I think those values have been in me, therefore, since a child. I wasn't very smart at school, so dyslexic. I have word salad, so I get my words mixed up all the time. Concentration levels were poor at school. So I left school with very, very few GCSEs. In fact, it was PE really that I left with, because that was my saviour in my community. I played ladies football, which again was unusual back in the day. You know, I was one of the first women to play. In fact, there wasn't women's football teams around then. I played for a boys team, Tongham United. Now it's great, it's massive. So I'm really pleased to see that growth.
Founding member.
I don't remember.
No, founding member.
Oh, founding member, absolutely, yeah. So I think, in my view, what I do now stems from understanding the benefits of working each other and the collective impact that you can have by working together to do some really good things that everybody benefits from.
Wow, you know, and that's such a wonderful sort of thought, you know, that says where you grew actually was the reason now why you sort of transitioned into this world, and sort of into your career then, before you joined and before creating CMPP. What was going on there? So how were you sort of engaged? What was going on? What were you doing?
Yep. So when I left school, I didn't actually do anything for a year, but my parents didn't quite know this, because I slept downstairs in a downstairs bedroom. So I used to get out, climb over the roof every day, go to work. They go to college. They thought I was going to college. When they'd gone to work, I'd come back in the house and did that for a year before getting caught out, really. At which point my dad said to me, "You're either going to be a plumber's mate, or you are going to go back and do something. You've got to get a job, or you've got to go to college." So at that point, I was 17. And I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to work. I'm definitely not being a plumber's mate. No way. So I went back to college, and because I didn't have any GCSEs, I did a GMVQ in leisure management, and then I did a H&D in leisure management, and finally I did a degree in leisure management. It took me 7 years, so a much longer journey than it needed to have done, but it gave me that bit of paper that was very important in my time to generate a career for me. So once I graduated, I went to work for Virgin Sun in Portugal. And I managed all of the sports and social activities in a hotel in the Algarve, which was my first real job. And it was, obviously, as you can imagine, a brilliant job.
Yeah.
It taught me loads of skills working with people, but it also gave me a great insight into working and living, partying abroad at that age. So did that for 2 years, which was enough because it's quite a hectic lifestyle. Came back to the UK, and for the next 10 years, I spent my time in marketing and events teams within corporate companies, until I came face to face with the redundancy back in 2010. At that time, I'd been working for an educational business partnership, matching at-risk boys, so boys that were about to fail and leave school, to companies and setting up work experience and employment for them. Brilliant scheme, funded by government. Government funded when I faced redundancy. CMPP came about then and there. So, you know, lots of different mental stages of that journey, really, from being worried about getting a job, having a mortgage. I just bought my first mortgage as I was about to face my first redundancy. Having the courage from a deprived community to get on a plane alone and go abroad and work, you know, completely without any support, when I'd come from such a supportive, you know, working class community. So I remember, I think the first time I felt anxious was when I arrived in Portugal and I had to stay the night in a room by myself. And I didn't realize that what I was feeling was anxiety. I recognize it now, but at the time I just thought, well, I didn't feel secure or safe, or that was the first moment I think I recognized that's what that feeling might have been. Of course, as you get older, you recognize different feelings as you gain life experience, I suppose.
Did that feeling come back at any point in other periods in your life? Do you recognize anxiety in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, people probably would look at me and wouldn't think I was an anxious person, but I'm always worrying about something or somebody, or, you know, I don't like flying, for example. I was worried about getting on the aeroplane. I do it, but I don't like it. I worry about, you know, perhaps if I've said something that might have offended somebody by mistake, did I say that the right way? So I think anxiety has played a part constantly throughout my life, but never sort of held me back in any way. I'm just very aware of feeling anxious at certain times. Worse, you know, when you're tired or you're stressed or you're dealing with something personal, you know, of course those feelings then are magnified.
Yeah, definitely, and you're absolutely right, and that's why these conversations are all about the sort of the journey with the experience of mental health, you know, because our life is you know, defined by things that happen, moments in our lives, where we grew up, the jobs we've had, the experiences we've lived through. And that doesn't always have to be bad, by the way. That's just a reality, isn't it? Of sometimes you feel anxious about something. Just doing the presentation or setting up the business can make you feel anxious. And I want to touch on that a little bit, because that moment, I think there's quite a pivotal moment there, which is that, you know, we go back to that shower point. I'm not trying to put that picture in anybody's head, but, you know, this sort of, you know, you were facing redundancy, you know, and many people, and that's so relevant to the conversation right now with, you know, lots of people who sadly are losing their employment. What thoughts were going through your head prior to sort of setting up CMPP? What was going on at that point?
Yeah, so quite a few things. I've been in that job about 6 years. I was quite settled in that, and comfortable, and realizing, oh my God, I'm rubbish in interviews. If you interviewed me, I wouldn't give me a job. No way. I don't come across very well in interviews for some reason. So I did recognize, oh, how am I going to get another job when I don't interview very well? I don't quite know how to be in an interview. So that was a worry. I had a mortgage that I had to pay that I'd only just taken on. It was £1,200 a month, I think, or something. It was big. How am I going to pay that if I get made redundant? Children, you know, how are you going to look after them and be sane and keep things under control without showing them you're worried? You know, your family, your friends. I think all of that it can be quite overwhelming for people to work out how is this all gonna, how we're going to be okay? How's it going to happen? You know, all those worries that you play in your head.
Wow. And then there was that moment of clarity, which said, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank God for that moment, because it gave me a direction and it gave me a drive. I think even at that point, I realized I didn't want to work for somebody else, because I recognized the work I've been doing over time was so important. And it was really frustrating. Every time we had a change of government, they changed the funding, and then you lose all of that expertise, all of that built up knowledge, and it would go. So I think I already knew that before the shower, but I didn't have the answer until that shower moment. Once I had that answer, that anxiety went, literally, you know, it decreased, because I had a plan, had an action. I thought, I think I can make this happen. It's the uncertainty, I guess, with like you're saying there, Matt. You know, lots of people we're dealing with uncertainty, and how can you make that uncertainty into something perhaps a little bit more certain in your mind? You can perhaps control a little bit more. I think that's what I did in that shower that moment.
Wow, yeah, and what I think it's just an amazing sort of visual of the fact that that shower defined something changing. And I've heard that often. I often have some of my best thoughts when I'm showering, or I think because you're relaxing more and you're allowing things to flow quite literally with the water and stuff, and it just enables you to think with more clarity at times. Because the noise is quite loud when you're anxious.
Yeah, you can't think straight, can you, when you're anxious? You
No,
just
no,
can't. And the moment you relax, actually the best thinking comes about, doesn't it? And whether you get your relaxation from showering or running
yeah,
or yoga or whatever it is, if you stop worrying for a moment and stop trying to control everything for a moment,
yeah.
suddenly the answer appears, like it did that day for me.
It comes when it has to come. I think that's the key, isn't it? When at that point where it recognize, you get so het up and wound up by things, sometimes just stopping enables the answer to appear. And I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal what's happened in terms of that journey then. And like, let's fast forward then 10 years. So you've got 65 organizations, 60 odd organizations involved in the work with the CMPP. But you've got a lot of challenges because COVID and the pandemic has no doubt created some issues with the charity sector in particular. Can you tell us about where things are right now in terms of CMP and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So charities are probably facing, one of the biggest, most challenging times of the industry, really, because there's two reasons for that. Number one, we can't run fundraising events, and we haven't been able to run any fundraising events for a year. That generates quite a lot of income for us,
Yeah.
to pay for the community projects that we do. So that's been a real challenge. That's one of our income streams. The other income stream, which is the majority of our income, comes from membership fees of companies working with us so that we can deliver their responsibilities. Now we're going to be number one off of their books if they haven't got any
Yeah.
money, if they're
Yep.
facing, shortages, if they've got staff working at home, staff furloughed, then, CMPP isn't going to be top of their priority to keep working and paying and funding.
Mm.
So we've done two things, I think. Number one, we've moved everything that we can online. So
Okay.
we've still got a massive volunteer program going, but it's remote. And actually, that's meant that lots of people can get involved from home at lunchtime, sharing skills,
Okay.
expertise, giving talks and presentations to schools. So in a way, it's done us a massive favour that our reach is now broader and wider, and more people can get involved in our programs now that they're remote.
Okay.
So that's been great. Some real fast-paced change for the organisation to flex and deliver. Um, we're also saying to our members, don't leave us now. Now's the time, if you can. You should continue to support the work we're doing, because now the time we really need to collaborate, get together and work effectively to help support each other. Your staff will need supporting, the community will need supporting. Don't leave. Let's have that conversation about what we can do to make things better for us all.
Mm.
So I'm hoping that we don't lose too many members when
Yeah.
our renewals come up in April. But there's only so much we can do to generate income. And if those income streams stops, and it obviously is a huge worry for me because I employ 7 people now.
Mm.
I don't want them to lose their jobs. So there comes that anxiety bit in my mind. And can we do it safely? Don't want to put anyone at risk because I don't want anyone to catch the virus if anything that we're doing. So all of our outdoor volunteering work has to stop for the moment until
Yeah.
we can know for sure that people can go back out and do that work without any cause of harm to anybody. So yeah, it's a bit of a difficult moment, but we're
Yeah.
navigating it like everybody is. I'm not
Yeah.
alone in this, and nor are you, Matt, nor is anyone. We're all facing similar strains. You've got furloughed staff, you're at home doing the homeschooling and trying to keep things going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge ask on anybody, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And it is really, that is the case. And it's keeping going. I think that's such an important part of this. Keep going. You're doing amazing jobs. Pivoting into some of this virtual environment, doing continuation is important. Continuing the very valuable work that you were doing, because the feedback you get from your customers, your clients, your members is probably the best way to say it, isn't it? Not customers or clients. The feedback you get is phenomenal, right? In terms of what they get out of that relationship. Can you give some examples for people to understand sort of what companies are doing through the CMP?
Yeah, of course. And that's a really good point. Is I think sometimes companies might join us initially because they think they should, but
Right.
once they actually get involved in the activities and the programs, they recognize it's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
Right. So let's take, for example, group of 15 employees from Happy Fall go down to a local school for a day, and they build a nature trail, and they spend the day working together as a team. All the resources are there. They plan out the project. The school students come and have a look at what they've done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They see the reactions of those young, infant school pupils, and they think, wow, do you know what? That was actually a brilliant use of my day. Thank you to my employer for allowing me to do that. That's made me feel fantastic. It's made me feel great. And what a valuable bit of work to do. So those hands-on outdoor stuff, they do so many things other than really real change to an environment. They build teams, they invest in people,
Yeah.
and they make people, feel a little bit better about some of the stuff that they're doing. So that's what we call our community action day projects. These are our hands-on physical. Let's go in and make a difference to a hospital, garden, an infant school playground, anywhere that Horsell Common we were at the other week doing some wildlife work up there. Let's get together and do that. But then the other side of that is our remote volunteering, where we'll have a charity ring up and say, look, we don't think our social media is particularly any good. Could you get one of your companies to have a look at it and perhaps let us know how we could do things a bit better? So we would then set up an online remote conversation between those parties so that they could, get some real great experience and expertise to support the growth of their charity. We might have Aetna, who are one of our corporate partners, rang up this week and said, look, we've got a load of old laptops here. The family's struggling at home to have enough IT kit to do work and homeschooling. Can we help at all? So then we can work with the vulnerable families and charities in our communities to dish that sort of stuff out, really. So there's loads of great projects to get involved with across the CMPP.
Wow. And, this is such a great sort of advertisement around the support you can give and the simple stuff you can do as well. And, I know from volunteering myself in terms of the work that I do and some of the volunteering stuff, the value you get from that and the feeling that it generates itself. There's some great statistics around sort of what volunteering actually means in terms of your mental well-being. It can be so powerful and it helps to create this sort of human to human connection much better, isn't it?
It does, Matt. And I think one of the things that companies do is they quite often give their staff between 1 and 3 days a year to volunteer, but only about 5% actually take that up, because actually getting volunteering organised and in place is actually tricky. So that's where we really want to help up those numbers so that companies can say, actually, we've delivered 95% of those days to our employees have taken them up, which would be great, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? We've got 17,000 employees on our books now across those 63 companies. If they all took their day or 3 days up, can you imagine the difference we'd make?
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't it?
Oh, and there's the challenge, isn't it? That's throwing a challenge out there. That it's out there. Let's improve it. Let's make sure that people really embrace it and support it as well. Because those companies are all signed up to your plan, your program. And you would hope that they would be actively pushing that. And for anybody that's involved in community work or community opportunities like that, knowing your company does enable or allow you time to do charitable things is important as much as taking time off for illnesses, mental health and all those things, because they can actually be really beneficial to yourself. So let's keep on supporting that. Let's keep on pushing that in terms of the future for where we are. How, from a personal perspective, have you found this last year, Tracy? How's things been for you and the family?
Yeah, sure. It's funny because sometimes I think it's been absolutely horrendous, and other times I think actually it's been absolutely amazing. And so I think there's two sides to the last year. There's the side where you've got to try and maintain and manage all of the extra pressures that you have on your plate, working at home as a mum, the worry about the virus, family members getting ill. Or can I keep my staff on? How am I going to keep the money coming into the charity? There's all of that which plays on your mind. But then there's also the extra bit where I've actually been able to sit with my youngest daughter, who's 8, and do some schoolwork with her. Actually, I really thoroughly enjoyed watching her learn and actually being involved in that schooling, because I wouldn't ever have the opportunity to. There's no way we'd have thought, let's homeschool our child. We've been made to do it. And having been made to do it, I found it a very valuable task.
Okay.
Having the time to go for long walks in the woods with my family, which again, it's normally we're 100 miles an hour here. We don't sit down. We don't get the time to chat around the dinner table every night. Wonderful. What a wonderful, experience to have had this year. And I'll hugely miss that when we go back to the normal world. But I'll also not miss having to worry about all these worries that are currently on my
Yeah.
mind, if we can get back to some normality as an organisation.
Yeah, and it's that balance, isn't it? You want to keep and retain all the good stuff from where you're at now, those having dinners around the table, chats, and supporting each other, and let's hope we don't slide back into old habits too quickly, which we probably will, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
that's just the way the world's turn. When you take the brakes off, it's going to go, and at some point I think that will happen, but we have to try and make sure we adapt ourselves in different ways, don't we? So the future, let's talk about the future, just in sort of towards the end of this session now. So what's your plan for the future with the organization, with what you're doing? Let's assume everything's going to come back, we're going to be okay. What do you want to do?
It's a great question, isn't it? Always to focus on the future. So what do we want to do? So we want more companies involved with what we do, because
Sure.
the more people we have, the more we can do in local communities.
Yep.
We want to up our fundraising game. So we want to make sure we've got more money coming into the organisation, so that we can develop more programs to support more people.
Yep.
And I guess what we want to do is make sure that whatever we do, we're doing it with integrity, with compassion, and with kindness, to really help companies not think we're just doing this because we should, doing it for investing in their people, investing in their culture, investing in the world and society as a whole, I think. And I'd love us to really drum that message home, that, don't just get involved because you think, oh, I should be doing something charitable. Think about that strategy, that purpose, because it will really benefit your bottom line and your organisation as a whole. And I think that's what we're aiming to do. Ideally, I'd love to be national, international, but it's probably a bit of a way off yet. Maybe in 10 years' time, that might be a potential. But
Maybe.
we can get real sort of traction going in the communities we're in at the moment and build that, then I think we'd be happy with our work.
Yeah, an amazing work that it is as well. And your growth projection, who knows when that might happen, but the reality is right now you've got something that's working, that needs, it's going to be nurtured, it's going to grow, it's going to help support so many people, and that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? It's helping more people.
Helping more people, absolutely. The more people we can help, if we do that together, we can be much more effective, because we learn so much from each other too, don't we?
This is very true. So we are right towards the end. I'm just going to say my part, and then I'll give you the floor for the end, Tracy, to promote your work and anything else you wanted to say to the people that are listening to this and watching this. So from my perspective, thank you so much. On behalf of the community, on behalf of, from myself, to say thank you for taking the opportunity, or the time to come, not the opportunity, the time to come and talk with me today, to chat. I really do genuinely appreciate everybody that's chatting with me on these podcast recordings, because you know what, it's just lovely to sit down and talk a little bit about you and your story and what we know, what you are and who you are and why you do what you do. So thank you so much from me. I'm sure from the CMP community, everybody would like to send their best to you and the community as well moving forward. And that's, important too. You're doing great work, so keep up the great work. Any closing or final thoughts from you, Jerry Springer style? Closing thoughts.
I guess for me, my whole career, my whole life's been about being resilient, really. Really having to fight every stage of the way to get anything going, from being, finding school difficult, to setting up a project from scratch and getting 1,000 no's from businesses before you get 18 yeses, to working through a pandemic. And I think I've always been resilient, but always worried at the same time. So for me, I would say to anybody out there struggling, just bear with, okay? Try not, this is my own advice I should be taking, try not to worry about it. Let those thoughts come, because naturally something positive will happen. And try not to get too worked up with all of the pressures that are currently on your plate, because things will soon change. The world will soon go back to normal. And then, this moment is past and gone. So stick with it, make the most of it, be resilient, and be happy.
Love it. Be happy, be kind, be resilient, stick with it. All amazing pieces of advice. Thank you so much, Tracy. As I always do at the end of these sessions, I will just sort of say, if you are struggling, if you do need help, if you do need support urgently, or you do want somebody to talk to, always know that there are people available to talk to out there in the world. Samaritans is an organization I'm very proud to be part of. and work with, but it's a resource that anybody can access any time of the day, and you can call 116-123 is the number to call if you wanted to talk to somebody just in confidence, just to tell your story, to talk about some of the challenges you might have. Please know that somebody is always there, and we do genuinely care about you and what's going on. As always, if anybody wants to contact me, please feel free to. If anybody wants to come on the podcast and do a recording with me, like Tracy's just done, which is fantastic, you're more than welcome. I just, I keep a rolling list of lots of people that really want to participate, and I love it. I think it's such a great opportunity to just sit down, as I said, and have a chat and a chinwag for a little while. So thank you, Tracy, and thank you,
Matt.
No, you're more than welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and good luck to everybody. And yeah, we'll see you on the next podcast. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel if anybody is still on YouTube, and you do have a subscription button there somewhere. I always forget to say that, so please do if you'd like to. But otherwise, I'll be chatting to somebody else very soon. So take care now, and see you soon.